This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Brueski.
We are talking with retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer today, and we're discussing the murder of Madeline Kingsbury and her former boyfriend, Adam Fravel, now being charged with the murder of Madeline. Prosecutors said in the complaint that a roll of gorilla tape was found at the home of Madeline and Fravel that shared the same color and width as the one on her remains, as well as some mattress pillowcases and stuff that were also connected to where she was found deceased. There's a lot of information now that we've learned about Adam Fravel since the arrest and since the unfortunate finding of Madeline deceased. A lot of it, I look at it and go, why did they arrest him sooner? Because it seems kind of damning. Let's talk about that for a little bit. And I know it's easy to say that on the outside, but I'm sure they needed to really have their case, ready to go and bulletproof to arrest him. But did they really need to find the body first to do that based on the other information that's out there?
Well, typically these prosecutors do not like to prosecute anyone without a body. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing it with Harmony Montgomery. We're seeing it with Corey Bigsby. But typically it's they try to avoid it at all costs. Because having that body there, it just proves that person is indeed deceased. And particularly when it's an adult, right? They don't want any cast of doubt to be that she's really alive,
mm-hmm.
that she left the family. So I think they were certainly also felt they could find the body in this case.
Mm-hmm.
I think they felt that they had the road leading to where her body was. It just was going to require more searching. And because of that, they didn't want to charge without the body that they knew they'd find.
When they have someone like that and they are watching them, they've done their research, they're waiting to find the body, how closely are they keeping an eye, or do you think they were keeping an eye on Adam Fravel in that gap of time in fear that he would maybe, try and run or something?
I don't think they were. I think they were keeping, as we know, very close. They closely monitored anything that was released, which was basically nothing. I remember you and I talked about this, and it was like, geez, they're just not giving us anything.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant to do that because, again, these narcissists really like to hold on to the fact that they've committed the perfect crime, that nobody's going to catch them. See, law enforcement isn't looking at me. But, you and I keyed on, and I said it from the get-go, the fact that those kids were not returned for, car seat violation told me there was no way that he wasn't their main suspect, that they didn't think he did it, and that's why they could keep his children away.
And that makes a lot of sense, not to tip your card and go, yeah, hey, we know that there was that phone call where you hit her and the friend saw it over Zoom or whatever, or that you were obsessed with Gabby Petito and making horrible comments to your significant other. Had that sort of information been released out there or leaked out there in some way, shape, or form, would those sort of things, is that what would necessarily make the narcissist type person go, oh, maybe they are onto this and I better move? If they keep playing it like, no, we think you're innocent, that's going to keep somebody in place far longer than the other way.
Right. In place, and also possibly doing Google searches.
Yeah.
Also possibly doing other cover-up type situations. Maybe getting loose lips, after a few drinks at a bar.
Yeah.
All the things that so many of these criminals, the mistakes they make. So law enforcement doesn't mind them being out there, especially if it's a targeted attack, right? This was very specific, a domestic violence situation. Mm-hmm. He wasn't necessarily going to be violent toward anybody else other than his children. I do believe some of these individuals are true family annihilators when they realize they've lost everything. And remember, she was their main money winner. Mm-hmm. She, I think, kept that whole household together. And I'm sure that was a huge concern, the children, the safety of those children. And I'm glad they took those stops, to make sure that wouldn't be an issue. I think they played nice with them throughout this whole situation, very tactically so.
Yeah, I think tactically it was done very, very well. When we look at some of the things that we know that he said to her, don't listen up, and she'd end up like Gabby Petito. I mean, these are horrible things to say to anyone, especially the person that's the mother of your kids or your significant other. Are men, are they finding more grounds to speak like this, or is it just coming to light more? Or is there more of a place these days for people with this sort of mindset to let it fester and to let it grow and to turn into this culture where there's these guys that feel they can treat their women this sort of way, or their significant other this sort of way? I know it's always existed to a certain extent, but it almost seems like it's more out in the open, and the things that people are saying aloud, even just a few years ago, they would not have been. Almost like we're going back in time.
I think it's a silent, horrible monster that exists behind so many closed doors that so many people just don't even know about. Yeah. Certainly now, because of social media, mainstream media, just everything, right? We're hearing these more specific graphic details, and just to have him quote Gabby Petito and the whole nation knows more or less what she went through. And that story is really just so yucky.
Yeah.
Like, when I was reading that affidavit, I just needed a shower afterwards. It was just so ugly to take a story that is so horrific and to hear that coming off the lips of him, purportedly anyway. Yuck.
It's scary, and I'm sure we're probably going to be learning a lot more in the coming weeks, months, maybe more so when we get to trial on this, if we get to trial, of what exactly, and like you said earlier, the Google searches. I'm curious to know what he was doing in that time window while the spotlight wasn't necessarily on him, but we were all waiting for that shoe to drop.
Right, yeah. I wonder too. I would believe that he might have done something during that time frame that will be helpful to the prosecution. I would not doubt that one bit. I think, people just can't help themselves. I always say at the core, right? Many people kind of are lazy. That's why they commit crimes around them. That's why they still do Google searches instead of maybe going to the library, logging on another machine to do their search, right? No, it's convenient to use your phone that's in your hand. And I think that's another big reason why people make mistakes. It's like a combination between narcissism and being easier.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers podcast
With Tony Brueski.
Retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, thank you so much for your insight. We very much appreciate it. If you want to get an ad-free experience of this podcast, if you like listening to them and you like to listen to all the interviews back-to-back with no ads, we got that for you on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to be a premium subscriber over there and get access to all of our podcasts with no commercials. So check it out on Apple Podcasts right now. Even try it for 3 days free. My name's Tony Brueski. You can follow me on Twitter at TonyBPod. Stay with us.